Who am I? That's a good question. Today I go by the name Future Legend. My old name was Frank Kozlowski. I'm just a regular dude from Brooklyn living the American dream, you know?
Coney Island is a place of memorable sights and sounds. Images easily recognized by anyone who spent a day on its boardwalk. Frank Kozlowski's auto body shop on Neptune Ave is no different. It plays headquarters to Carousel Collision, a successful local business as well as Future Legend, a budding clothing line founded in 2010 by this unlikely fashion entrepreneur.
Basically, I grew up in Brooklyn, and I really didn't want to go to college. It just wasn't for me. I wanted to kind of follow my father's footsteps. I always liked cars. He was a mechanic, but I was like the body aspect, paint jobs, etc. like that. Basically, my life savings was probably about 10 grand. Rented out a small shop, and me and one body guy worked every day. I mean, nobody really, I could say, helped me. Let me grow up in the real world quickly. You know, being your own boss at 18, you'll learn quickly. You'll either climb the ladder of success quickly or you'll fall from that ladder just as quickly. So, I mean, it was probably really the best thing I ever done in my life. The body shop, you know, I can't lie. It's been good to me over the years. It allowed me to do everything that I'm doing now and paid for everything, like as far as Future Legend, the UGC. So, you know, able to give back to my community. Who'd have thought, like, from body shop, I'd go into the world of fashion and sports. Even for me, sometimes I'm pretty fucking amazed that my brand's doing as well as it is without me having any knowledge of it. It's like when I first launched my t-shirt company, Paul was gonna be the first time I dealt with a star or celebrity of any caliber who was gonna rock my brand into the ring. When Paul came down to the shop, I never forget, he came to my office and he's like looking at all my designs. So he's looking at everything like clown oriented, like my tattoo. He's like, I'm not kind of feeling none of that, but I'm feeling that Future Legend right there. 2009, Future Legend, like that was our first real little bit of exposure in boxing. And then after that, of course, with Paul's help, we branched out to John Duddy and Kermit Cintrone and dozens of other boxers. MMA was different. MMA, after gaining some popularity with my brand, 2010 going into 11, I met Phil Baroni from UFC on Twitter actually, and Phil actually broke us into the MMA world by rocking at one of his fights. And after that, just spurned out into Kurt Pellegrino. Been blessed to be in Bellator and boxing, NFL, NBA. So. But I owe it all to Paul and Phil. I'm not going to sit here and glorify. Without them, I would never have none of this exposure, press, or success. So hats off to Phil Baroni and Paul Malignaggi, my boys.
I met Frank years ago. You know, obviously he was trying to get the company out, and he was looking for ways to expand, so to speak. You know, and so he, you know, we met up and we talked, and he said, you know, he wanted to get into boxing and he wanted to, you know, try to figure out ways to expand the underground clown. and the Future Legend brands. I liked what he stood for. I liked what the company stood for. The Future Legend brand that came along with the Underground Clown was very catchy, especially for an athlete like myself as a fighter. And so, we went with that, and little by little we started to work together. And he's like, you know what, you've done so much for the company. What do you think about partnering up and trying to, go through you and we can break more into these athletic industries and whatnot. And so, we discussed it, we talked about it, and we've also become very good friends. So it's cool when you're business partners and your friends. And I think there's a lot of potential success in it.
Just meeting someone like Frank, who, it worked out great because it's like we're like family now, So we've been friends with Frank and like family for a few years now, and Paulie became the face of the brand. He branched Future Legend out to a lot of fighters now, and you see a lot of athletes. It's not just fighters, and there's a lot of hard work on Frank's part and a lot of hard work on myself and Paulie's part.
I feel that Paulie and Frank are just one and the same entity. You know what I'm saying? If it was Frank that was boxing, I'm sure Paulie would be there supporting them, handling the business part. And since it's Paulie that's boxing, I think that Frank, will handle the business part. They complement each other very, very well. And it's not just Frank and Paulie. It's also Alan and Jeff and everybody that's part of the team. Everybody complements each other. There's no weak links, because everybody actually wants to push the brand. Everybody wants to help the brand. Everybody wants to move the brand, because everybody thinks if one person is successful, everybody's successful. If it brings awareness to one person, we bring awareness to a lot of people. We're stronger as a unit than we are as individuals.
Yes, I've been fighting for so many years, and I've seen sponsors go in and out, big time sponsors who don't even introduce themselves, don't even get to know their fighters. And here you get a guy who's actually a philanthropist to the entire community. And he comes from Coney Island, comes from Brooklyn. He's a native Brooklynite like me. And anytime I could just come down and say what's up at the shop. I had a couple of bumps in my career. He's always there, but he's always behind me. Future Legend is an amazing sponsor, family, and they're all good friends to me. So, I mean, it just feels great that they're behind me.
The new gear that's coming in right now from the designs, it's going out to Marcus Galvo, Jay Leon, to Altern Werner. It's going to NFL players, to MMA players, to actually some of our fans that we do, or some of the customers that purchase gear. So we actually ship out on a regular basis because we have just orders keep coming in, trying to stay up to date. At the same time, we try to keep our own flavor in every design that we do. All the ideas, all the slogans, everything comes from Frankie. It comes as simple as this. Frankie can come in one morning, he can say, I was out and I just had this great idea. Like you see behind my screen, dream big, live large. We take that slogan, I give it to a couple of designers. I give him no leeway of what colors to use, how we want it to look. Here's a slogan, bring it to life. We get samples back of how the designer interpreted the idea of the slogan. And most of the time, before we even get the shirts, we already have a design out there on the social media, on the website, on the Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. Try to show people what's coming, and we can prepare them for pre-orders, see what the hype is all about, see how they like it, what the response is. That's it. Once we have the shirts, people that we sponsor, we try to ship them all the new gear so they can just wear it, represent it, they can advertise it, and they can just live by the name.
While all Future Legend athletes are putting in the work to build a brand as well as their careers, it's Paulie, Frank's partner, who is training for a title fight that will put his brand on the biggest of stages.
Fight week's rough because everything related to the fight, I want to be there and support my boy. And it's hard on him. He's got to cut weight. He's not really himself because he's focusing on his fight. And cutting weight's very hard, along with training and etc. But just being there for him is special, for everybody supporting him, knowing that we're there for him, everything that he needs. I mean, it's very exciting to be there. But on the same thing, you're nervous, you're anxious for the fight to get there. Of course, you don't want him to be injured and stuff like that. It's a great time, but it's a difficult time. Difficult meaning that there's just so much that has to get done. Open workouts, media, press conferences, weigh-ins.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's the defending world champion with a record of 32 wins, 4 losses with 7 knockouts. He's the 2-time world champion, the current defending WBA welterweight champion of the world from Brooklyn, New York, the Magic Man, Paulie Malignaggi.
And then fight night. Your anticipation, you're waiting for the fight to come, and then as you're watching the fight, you're seeing one of your friends in there, your partners, one of your boys in there, like literally like fighting for his life in there. And then, you know, like with every punch he takes, or if it's Phil fighting in MMA, every kick or etc. or chokehold, you're hoping that they have enough to withstand it and come out on the upside. So it's a rough time, but nothing's better than them coming out with a victory.
On June 22, 2013, Paulie Malignaggi fought Adrian Bronner in front of a hometown crowd at Brooklyn's Barclays Center. Although dropping a razor-thin controversial split decision, he brought the future legend brand in front of more eyes than ever before. In addition to the 11,400-plus crowd in attendance, the Showtime televised card reached 1.2 million homes nationwide. And as Paulie has put the right people to guide him in his corner, Frank has also kept someone in his corner to do the same.
The day that Corey was born was quite interesting. Out of all my kids, Corey gave me, that was the hardest birth I ever had. I went into labor at 9:30 in the morning. I had him at 4:25 in the afternoon. The doctor thought that I was going to die in labor. So I said, oh my God, this kid must be going to be somebody very important, because he is kicking my behind.
I was 16 when I met Corey. I actually met him at my cousin's friend's house. It was Christmas Eve. He asked for my number. We were talking for a little bit. We were like boyfriend and girlfriend for maybe about a few months after that. Then we kind of went our separate ways. It wasn't anything serious. And then I had to have been about 18 or 19 when I bumped into him again. I actually saw him at Greek Fest. There was this thing that they have out at Jones Beach. I bumped into him there, and then we just started talking again. My friends loved him. Everyone else loved him. We were in love.
So my sisters always used to call him the little old man. It was like he had a spirit that was already here before, like this was his second time around. I mean, he was always very wise. He was always like, he was more like a politician than another. He knew everyone. People, if you know him, you love him. And some people would say, I don't like you, but I like your style. Because he had a lot of charisma.
He was like the life of the party. Corey knew everyone. He could talk to a wall. He didn't have to know you, but you would think just hearing him converse with someone like he knew them forever. That was just the type of person he was. And I miss that about him.
Corey was a special kid. I mean, I was friends with his brother Artie. Never forget, Corey was about 13 when I met him. Artie was like, "Oh, it's my little brother Corey. You know, he's gonna come by the shop." This and that. I'm like, "No doubt, send him by the shop." I mean, from the first day I met him, he had the likability factor. Some people got it, some people don't. That kid had it. I mean, from day one, me and him were just like inseparable. He used to come by after school, help me out wash cars, stuff like that. He was just a great kid.
It really taught Corey a lot about business. Frank gave him that opportunity to learn a lot. Frank allowed him to run errands for him, gave him a sense of how to conduct business, to get things done. It gave him a sense of responsibility. But I think Corey gave Frank a sense of how to deal with a lot of things. You know, Frank was not always the calm guy that you see today. So I think Corey helped him handle a lot of his emotions. And Frank helped Corey to be more responsible.
So basically, me getting involved in fashion, I'm not saying this is what he would do, but the best way for me to remember him is my boy is always fashionable. So what better way to pay homage to him than doing something in fashion?
He had a style. He had a style about himself. He knew very early how he wanted his hair cut, what shirt he wanted to wear, what pants he wanted to wear. He had a sense of where he wanted to go early.
Corey loved fashion. He just loved dressing up, looking good. That was his thing, just clothes, shoes. That was Corey.
From the time that I have known Frank, Frank and Corey fashion was totally different.
And I'm not saying he'd be a model or a fashion designer or none of that stuff. He was just a fashionable kid. I mean, whatever was the trend at the time, he knew about it. He knew what was coming out. He knew the sneakers or whatever the case may be, or iceberg t-shirts were popular at that time. I mean, $110 for a t-shirt. He just knew about that stuff, you know. That was him, a trendy kid. He was always upbeat, always positive. You could be miserable, and he can change that in like literally 30 seconds. Nobody I've ever met in my life prior to that or since then has had that impact on me. Nobody.
He's a good person. Like, even if he and I weren't together now, like, and he was alive, it was just a good person that's no longer here on earth.
Basically, this is a place where I like to come for a little downtime, a little me time. Even though he's passed, I just put up this little memorial for him because I believe I don't have to be at the place where he's resting in peace now, but his spirit is all over. So that nickname was given to him by his other friends, not me. He was like a model pretty boy, you know, so hence face. Just stuck with him.
The day that Corey was murdered, so many things happened that day. Corey always called me every day at work. Mommy, did you have lunch? Mommy, did you get lunch? Do you want me to have lunch sent to you? That particular day, he said he didn't feel well and he was coming home. And I got here, and 5 minutes after I got here, the detectives ring my bell and says, does Corey Pelzer live here? And I was like, yes. They was like, well, we are here because your son just got shot in the head and we don't expect him to live. And I was like, what are you talking about? And it was like, yeah, we're here to take you to Kings County Hospital. So I called Artie, my oldest son, and I told him. And I walk in the hospital, and I really didn't think it was bad as they say it was. So I walk over to Corey, and the doctor says, oh, you can't go to him because he didn't feel the shot. He didn't feel the bullet when it entered his skull, and we don't expect him to live. So I was looking at her like she was crazy. I was like, what is she talking about? I was like, God, she doesn't know what she's talking about. And it was like, oh, we have this room for you. You could go over there. So I called my daughter, and I called a few people. But I told them not to come because it wasn't that bad. But they came.
Corey was killed in 2001. I never forget, it was March 2001. It was a Thursday night going into Friday. I wake up on a Friday morning to my boy Jay calling me up, and there was no real conversation. It's just him crying, and he said Corey. So at that moment, I already knew, like, there was no sense. The phone line just went dead, and at that moment, I knew he was gone. But I didn't know the details or what happened, but finding out later from his brother and stuff that he was actually shot and killed, I mean, it was pretty devastating. I mean, I probably, like, destroyed everything in my room at the time.
Somehow it didn't register with me. They told me he expired, but I just didn't hear it. I just didn't hear it. I only heard it when my daughter-in-law was talking on the phone, and she says to someone, Corey expired, and I said, oh my God, please, God, whatever you do, don't take my child, just take me. Please don't take my child. And I just felt like I really wanted to just crawl under the floor, beneath the floor, and I was like, oh my God, God, why did you allow this to happen to me, you know? And I was just seeing pain. I was in instant pain. I felt like someone just cut me open and didn't give me anesthesia and just left me there.
I just kind of blocked that part. See, I didn't want to cry. I kind of blocked it out of my memory. It was just painful. Like, when he passed, I didn't feel like I would have been able to move on to the past. Oh my goodness. When he passed, I didn't feel like I was going to be able to move on. I just kind of blocked it all out of my mind. So I don't remember, like, moments or anything. Just that day that he died is, like, the only thing that I really remember, because I was trying to get in contact with him throughout that entire day, and it was like he wasn't responding to my messages or anything, and I was actually looking for a birthday gift for him. So that's the only thing I remember, which is crazy to me. That's all I remember, besides when we first met and then the day he died.
When I first heard the story of Corey Pelzer story, is that it was one I hadn't heard of, but it was dramatic. It was about a kid who was a working kid, a good kid, who gets on a bus one day and to go to work, and when it pulls to a stop, another guy gets on the bus and walks to the back, pulls out an automatic handgun, fires a bullet into his forehead, and gets off. And by all accounts, he got into a car that was tailing this bus. And here's a young guy who worked hard for a living and comes from a working class roots like I do in Brooklyn. And he's sitting with a hole in his head. It was almost like the opening of a movie, and you want to know why.
I wanted to find out who did this, why they did this, what happened. And today I still don't have an answer what happened. I don't know who killed him. I don't know what happened. And there's just this part of me that there is no closure to. I do believe that the truth will eventually come.
Cases like Corey Pelzer's situation are very common in our newspaper. Even though we've covered it over 10 years ago, it's like there's a Corey Pelzer in every community, and there's a lot of him in our community. There are a lot of youths that are being shot, maybe for no reason, or they just rub somebody the wrong way, they step on somebody's foot, and I don't think it's uncommon anymore. I think it's more common now than it was, when Corey Pelzer's story came out.
Corey's story it happens all the time. Police can only do with what they have. They have a guy who got into a bus, shot this young man, jumped in an SUV. Witnesses? I don't know.
The officers assigned to Corey's case refused to speak on the subject.
Those two detectives, their hands are tied. For them to say something it's suicide in their career. And without witnesses, cops have this, nothing. That case is probably tucked away somewhere, you know, and that's probably what it's gonna stay if they have no witnesses, to be honest with you. It's gonna stay open forever.
Nobody really knows the real true story, but of course Corey and the guy who was responsible for it. But from what witnesses say is Corey was on the bus on his way home from Kings Plaza. Somebody walks up and on the bus. As they're approaching a stop, walks up to Corey, pulls out a 9mm, shoots him point blank in the face, and casually walks off the bus into a waiting SUV. So I mean, like, shit doesn't go down like that. You know, a random act of violence? No, there was more to this. It's fucked up to say, like, if Corey was a white kid from 52nd First to the River, his case might be solved. Or, you know, but deem it black on black crime. You know, in society today, it's a win-win situation. You know, one black kid's dead and one black kid is probably in jail or dead himself or whatever. Nobody gives a fuck, you know? So, I mean, that's the real truth.
In the last 10 years, the murder and violent crime rates of New York City have been consistently higher than the national average. Despite strict gun laws, 68% of traceable guns found have come from out of state. New York City is on pace to have 335 reported murders this year and is being applauded for being a safe city in America. Yet, in 2011, when London, a city of 8.3 million, had reported 113 murders, it was considered to be a time of national crisis. America needs to wake up. Frank has arranged for Jalissa to visit Sherry, Corey's mother. They have not seen each other in over 10 years.
Oh my God! How are you doing? Oh my God!
I'm so anxious and excited to see you.
I didn't even know you were here. Oh my God! I thought you was like.
I'm here.
Oh my God! I thought you was out like in Somerset.
No, I was. And then I moved back to Brooklyn. So I'm here again.
I never seen you the whole time living in this neighborhood.
The three of them will travel to visit Corey's gravesite together for the first time.
This is like a fairy tale. It's like kind of something out of Disney. Oh, it doesn't even feel like real. Everything is so coincidental and connected some way or another. This is like, oh my God. This is like a Sunday that I never would expect.
All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. Gunshots, gun wounds, all these things.
The gun control, with me, it's a touchy subject. Simply because when you have kids with guns and so easily accessible to them, it's a danger not only to themselves, but to the entire community. And people should stand up and say something about it. Because even our legislators are putting in certain laws that really don't cover the whole thing and make the access to children and young adults, hard to get. People can come up with nice slogans, guns don't kill people, people kill people, but if that gun wasn't there, it wouldn't be part of the equation.
Guns don't kill people. It's people kill people. That's the bottom line. Guns don't kill people. If you were to take all the guns away, guess what? They're gonna start using knives. So what do you ban knives now?
You could You know, you could put metal detectors on the borders of New York. I don't think it's going to work. People are going to get guns. You know, I hear on the scanner, we listen to the police scanner, you got a 10-year-old, you hear a 10-year-old with a gun in his backpack. How does a 10-year-old get hold of a gun?
It's really important that people understand this. This is an epidemic. This is not a partisan issue. This is not a political issue. This is a health crisis in our country. 30,000 people a year are killed by guns. That's almost 8 children a day. So every 3 hours, a child or a teen is killed by a gun every single day in America. It's ridiculous. If there were anything else in this country killing our children like guns are, it would be off the shelf. It would be regulated. I can't get Sudafed, but I can get bullets.
No regard for life itself. Just totally no regards for life, or for their life or anyone else's life. It's sad. I think that my heart hurts when I see that another parent is burying their children.
I lost plenty of homies to the gunfight. Plenty. One day we be together right now. Tomorrow morning, it's over. You know what I mean? So I lost a lot of friends like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, do it hurt? Yeah, it hurts. You know what I mean? But you know, it's America, man. It's the world. It's the world. It's not even America. It's the whole world. Anywhere in the world, people choose the gun first over fists.
This is bullshit. Guys like Corey Pelzer, this clown, this punk from the Crips who had a gun, who says he has a color. They fly colors, yellow and blue. They all should have the same color. Get together, have the same color. It's yellow for coward. They're all cowards. They're cowards, these punks that carry guns and shoot the defenseless.
I actually covered a murder that took place in Canarsie in our community. He was found shot in the head, execution style. And this is pretty common in our community, unfortunately. So these are the types of things that we're reporting on and things that the civic leaders are trying to combat.
From my personal experience, gun violence, it has been an issue, not personally in my life, but I used to work in Coney Island Hospital in the emergency room, which is about a mile away from Frankie's shop. And we used to get gunshot wounds, and we were basically the first line of defense when it comes to reviving patients like this. So I've seen the extremes of gun violence. Luckily, I haven't experienced anything in my personal life where any friends of mine were injured or shot, thank God. But every time the patient came in through the door and it was a gunshot wound or a car accident or anything like that, it was my worst nightmare to see someone that I actually knew.
So it's really very complex and very emotional, a lot of pain. I mean, late at night when no one is around, everything is quiet, and the minds start working, and you feel like there's a lot of unsolved things that you don't have answers to. Sometime, and Corey will say, "Grandma, they didn't find Corey killer," and Corey is my grandson. I mean, Quincy would ask, and that's my grandson, and I would freeze. I couldn't even tell him no. I just was just go silent. I'm like, oh my God, I'm still in pain, And sometimes I would just pray, God, please just kind of take away the pain. Just give me strength to deal with it. If you're not going to remove the pain, at least give me strength to deal with it.
All of us, every single one of us, and I get mail like this, has an absolute right to become political. If you're not political when it comes to issues like gun violence, if you live in a city like New York, then you don't deserve to have a voting card. I really believe that. I really believe that you have a civic duty to have a position on this.
We need to get Americans, ordinary Americans, to care about this issue and up the intensity, ratchet up the intensity, so that politicians really know that if they don't vote the right way, they're going to be out of office. It's the only thing they're actually going to respond to and listen to.
We've had so many shootings. We have, American terrorists. You know, government is so worried about, you know, tapping our phone calls and doing all this. What about shootings going on, things going on? Kids are terrorizing each other.
I think we need to have a crackdown on them like they did in the early days of Bill Bratton. And I don't mean Rudy Giuliani, I mean Bill Bratton, his police commissioner, cut crime in half in this city. It was the broken window theory. Every time they saw somebody breaking the law in any small way, taking a leak, jumping a turnstile, they tossed them. They ran their name through the computer. If they had a warrant on them, they locked them up, put them in the can. They took 15,000 predicate felons who committed most of the crimes over and over and over and over. They were career criminals. Put them in the can, and crime dropped in half. Because it's not everybody that's a criminal. There's gangs of punks that go around committing most of these crimes. You need to target them, and I don't think there's a problem with that. I think that's the liberal thing to do. I don't think that there's any kind of civil rights violation to that. I think that you need to target people just as we target terrorists. There's kids that are terrorizing the streets.
They're coming too hard on the wrong people. They need to go after the criminals, not the people that are licensed. It just doesn't make sense. I carry, that means tomorrow I'm gonna get up and go take someone out because I'm having a bad day? No. Don't worry about me, worry about the guy who doesn't have the license. You know, these guys are getting guns through the black market. The criminal-minded people, the bad people, they're walking around with these big guns, and guess what? You're still gonna have these senseless murders going on. Because the laws are not made for the bad guys, I don't believe. They're made to stop the good people, which are not committing the crimes. I mean, I've been to plenty of homicides, and not once have I found a gun that was registered, unless it was stolen. You know, politicians, get your head out of your asses and start working for the people, man, and stop making these bullshit laws just to make it look like you really care and you want to do something when that's not really the truth. Stop going after the guy who has nothing to do with it. Go after the real guy. But I know you guys are too scared to do that, right?
Well, I think what's happening behind this is a start. You know, start opening up more play streets. Start making sure that people aren't afraid to speak up. Make it safe for them as well. Because, you know, you need the fear, and I understand of retaliation is a very strong emotion. But if you take that and make them feel safe and ensure that safety, that will be hope for this to be a safer place.
For me with Corey, I didn't have to tell him a lot of things. He already knew without me telling him. It was like that emotional attachment that we just had. You know, I wouldn't have to tell him. I would never have to tell Corey that I was sick. If he didn't see me and I was sick, he knew it. He automatically knew it. I mean, even when my mother was, after I buried my mother and I was south, he was like, you know what, Mom? You don't need to be down there by yourself. I'm coming back to meet you down there. You need, you know, I'm gonna be there with you. When I got so sick and I couldn't get out the tub, Corey came home and he took me out of the tub and took me to the emergency. It was like not having to tell him things, he just knew it. It was almost like being on the same mindset, you know. So he'll say, Mommy, I know you was a good daughter to your mother. Don't worry about that. You know, and I never said anything to him, but he just had that. So I felt like I kind of like lost my little, my son, my little husband, my little friend, my little, my little personal angel, you know. Well, Corey, this is the first time that I'm here with Frankie and Jalissa. The people who are really close to you and remember you. There is no final word. I just want to say that what you always know, that I always love you. I will always keep your spirit alive. And I'm just happy to be a part of this and glad that you was the person that you are and you will always be. So I'm going to step away and gonna give Frankie and Jalissa an opportunity to say a few words.
You can take mine, Bella. I don't need it. So much I wanted to say. So much that I couldn't get to tell you. For so many years, like, I pushed all of that hurt from losing you away. Didn't really want to deal with it. And now I'm finally dealing with it today. You're an amazing person. I've learned so much from you. And I do miss you. So needed to deal with this. So needed.
You know I don't need to be here to always speak to you, bro. I always speak to you every day, so it's good to be here and pay respects to your father and come here with mom and stuff. I miss you, kid. The reason I started this brand, and actually my UGC brand, which launched this brand out, was for my friend who's murdered. I mean, this was what he would be doing, so he can only live through my deeds, my actions, and what I do. He lives through me. So, you know, basically, I'm doing it, but his dreams are being lived through my actions. So that's why this brand will never fail. It'll be destined for greatness.
Between October 22nd and November 5th, 2012, Hurricane Sandy ravaged the entire East Coast. In New York, the waves in the harbor reached 32.5 feet, and the surge on land was 13.88 feet. 7.9 billion businesses and homes were left without power, and the nationwide death toll reached 117. Governor Cuomo estimated that the storm caused $41.9 billion in damage. Weeks after the storm had subsided, 200,000 businesses and homes were still without power, many of those in Coney Island.
Basically, the impact of Sandy in this whole area was devastating. Not only did we get hit with the beach, but we got hit with the sewer, as well as the creek overriding. So, I mean, basically water levels in here, as we walk around the shop, we're probably close to 5 feet high, settle line being at 4 feet. Even though it's freshly painted now, you can still see some of the settling lines as we walk through. But pretty much everything in this place was destroyed, from lifts, spray booth being down, all equipment, my guy's toolboxes, you name it, it was pretty much destroyed here. I don't think people can really gauge the effect of Sandy without being here. News and media kind of played it out, but they gave you like a bullshit version. If you lived through it like we did, it's a different version. The real version is people still today not being up and running. This place was closed for 8 weeks, probably lost a couple $100,000 in revenue not being open for 2 weeks, along with about $800,000 in property damage here. So how do you recover from $1 million? I mean, you can almost like wake up in the morning and not even want to go on with your day. Here we are. So
Thank God my men are here working and feeding their family. That's the main thing. Because Lord knows our wonderful mayor, FEMA, and our insurance company gave us dick. So basically, everything came out of his pocket. So, I mean, this is clean. You got to see it when we first got it there. I contemplated fucking leaving, not coming back. This was the lesser of two evils, especially going home and being fucking homeless, you know? That was the worst of two evils. Owning just the clothes on my back and the keys to a business that wasn't worth shit. Basically, as the gate comes down, you can actually see some of the wind damage as well as water damage coming in. From here down had to be replaced because the water and wind blew it in, and this is actually remnants left of sand. Overflowing of paint thinners, debris, sewage backed up, so you can tell how high the water got here in the settle line on here. Why clean? It's kind of like a chilling reminder of the shit I had to deal with to get back open. Shit, life hasn't kicked me in the ass. Life's fucking baseball batted me. Shit. Gosh. The last 6 months, especially with Sandy, I was fucking homeless for 5 days, lost my shop for 2 months, no money coming in. More importantly than that, you know, worrying about the families of my guys being able to work. On top of that, rebuilding, getting back to work, reopening the shop, dealing with some court and legal issues, going through a divorce. So life ain't fucking kicking me in the ass. Life fucking baseball batting. When I got up, it ran me over with a fucking Chevy. So it's just about staying positive. You can't let none of that shit hold you down. I mean, I'm chasing my dream, and fucking, as I tell everybody, nothing on this earth is stopping me from catching it. My motivation has always been a strong work ethic. I took that from my pops. But my boy, you know, he motivates me every day. Shit, right after Hurricane Sandy, I'm laying in the fucking bed, homeless, don't know where the fuck I'm gonna go. I could swear like I felt him come sit on the foot of my bed, put his hand on my fucking knee and say, bro, everything's gonna be okay. Got up, left the room. After that, I knew he was with me, and I'm ready to go. Ain't nothing stopping us.
The brand speaks for itself. To be positive, be motivated to do whatever you want to do in your life. And there's so much brands out there that don't mean anything. Future Legend means a lot.
When you have something that stands for something positive, again, like making people aware that there's no need for this kind of violence, there's no need for this classless and really the negativity of the gun violence, people losing their lives for no reason, you know what I'm saying? And so, you know, obviously there's a lot of good causes in the world. There's also a lot of bad things going on. When you're bringing, if you can do your little bit of a part to help out and putting out a positive cause and opening people's eyes, you know, it makes you feel good.
Listen, I got into this apparel game not for me. It was to carry on like my boy's honor, his legacy. Do something for him.
Frank is doing the right thing and doing this in his friend Corey's memory. You need to do every person who's been affected by gun violence to do something similar. I mean, I don't know how we'll have to go out and make movies or documentaries, but you need to actually take action.
You know, if we can just bring awareness to people, you know, I think that it'll better society in a whole.
We got to stop this violence in the street, man. It's not right. You know, young kids, you know, getting killed, getting shot. It's stupid, man. It can't continue like this, you know. So we're gonna do whatever we can to do our end, you know.
Frank, yeah, it's a great businessman. Frank knows how to make money.
Our idea is to take money and be able to give back, make a difference and an impact. You want to be a role model. You don't just want to do this to buy a fancy car and live in a dope house and shit like that. You want to be able to give back, and people, like, long after you're gone, people say, like, you know what? That dude made an impact. He left a legacy behind him. That's what I want. I know he's definitely proud of what we're doing. And I'm more proud to be doing it in his honor.
There's a lot of anger that kids have, and I understand it. I get it. The gun isn't the answer, though.
People react on emotional and visceral level to stories. So people should not be afraid to come out and tell their stories, as Frank has done about Corey, because that is how I think you will actually reach people on that emotional level, which is what it takes to get people to take action.
I do have hope for the children in our community. I think it'll take a long time, and I think stories such as this might inspire other people to stop the violence. You want to motivate kids to do positive things. Instead of dying and being known as a legend for that, they could be a living legend.
Yes, Corey, I love you. I miss you every day. And you are still alive in my heart.
So instead of hating that night, I'ma celebrate your life. I used to play my songs and ask what you thought about it. Now I'm writing more, but you're not around it. I put up your pic, so you know you missed. From the life you lived to the advice you give. I'm feeling sad, feeling mad, but it's all at once. Pouring liquor, thinking you, and then I hold it up. I find hope somewhere, even though it's tough. I'm motivated, hitting goals for the both of us. Face my demons even when I know I couldn't run. Only cause that's what you would've done. I kept it moving, that's what you would've wanted, huh? But I'ma still do the things that you would've loved. I know I gotta stay strong for the team. It's hard enough to stay strong for me. So I put you in a song, now see. You ain't never gonna die, so breathe. You ain't never gonna die, so breathe. You ain't never gonna die, so breathe.
I know, still thinking of the time that they stolen from you. I know, still wanna see you, still wanna hear you, even though you're gone. I won't just sit at home, even though I'm being strong. Just keep smiling now so I can keep my promise to you.
You've been my accomplice to all my accomplishments. I don't wanna quit, now I gotta win. You left and left us all in astonishment. I felt sick and I lost all my confidence. I can't help it but to dwell on your intelligence, and room's empty without your presence in it. I never listened to your sentences and thought that it would be the end of it. Just know that you inspired me, and you're gone but you still guided me. Cause I'm thinking what would Neela do, saying how I'm feeling, cause maybe millions can feel it too. Kept me positive and optimistic, but the room's still empty with the coffin in it. I get your crown tatted, so you're always living. I'm the second strongest in the room, you're the competition. I'm the second strongest in the room, you're the competition. I'm the second strongest in the room, you're the competition.
I know, still thinking of the time that they stolen from you. I know, still wanna see you, still wanna hear you, even though you're gone. I won't just sit at home, even though